working on blue again. Now, if you're new to the channel, let me explain this car a little bit. This is my 2017 STI. It's not like any other STI that you might find out there though, especially for VA chassis. This is a 6-cylinder swapped STI. The engine is out of a 1995 Subaru SVX. The current motor is actually down out front at the machine shop. The one that is in here is my mock-up engine because mine decided to blow up last time on the dyno, as you guys saw in that fun intro. So the time has come to start getting things back together. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be changing on this car for the better to make it an overall more reliable, more well-rounded, and more professionally built car. Everything that we've done leading up to this point has been child's play, including the last time we did this car, because all of that was a learning experience for me. So now I can take all of that information that I've learned between this car and all the other ones and start applying that knowledge. Now I do want to say, some of these videos on the Blue Brew are not all going to be 100% work related. There is going to be some more talking in some of these videos, trying to explain some of the stuff that we're doing, give you guys a little bit more insight as to why we're doing it and what it may do. And we're going to go into detail on this, because like I said, if anybody ever wants to cut, copy, paste, replica this build, they can if they watch all of these videos. So let me give you a quick overview of the car, and then let me show you what we're starting on this thing. We're going to start with the worst of it first and then go from there. So a little bit about the engine setup in this car. Prior, we had a Precision 6870 on here. We have now jumped up to a Precision 7675. That thing will make a lot more power than the old system could have. Prior, we were also using a set of ID 1300s in this car. We have now stepped those up to ID 2600s. The engine is still a 3.3 liter. It is still a dual overhead cam engine. The only thing that this engine shares with EJ's is the oil pump and the connecting rods. Aside from that, everything else is custom. The crankshaft, the pistons, the cams, the buckets, everything else is all pretty much custom machined parts. There are other people out there that have done builds similar to this, but this is the only one in a newer VA chassis like this. You guys may have seen Mighty Car Mods do one of these, but they did not do this engine. They stuck with an EZ30. This one is an EG33, two entirely different engines. Prior clutch in this car was a ACT Mod Twin. We are now changing that out for an Exity triple disc. It's their stage 5, which should hold all of the power. Now the big thing in this car, what kind of screwed me, and it was my first time doing it, was this old engine harness. I'm not proud of that. It looks like absolute garbage, and we can do better, and that is where we are going to be starting on this car. So let me walk you through what I have back here on the table. I have bought the actual proper crimping tools for everything that we're going to be doing now. This is every tool that Haltech has to offer: depinning tools, crimping tools, everything. I have a brand new fresh Haltech Elite 2500 engine harness. We're going to be utilizing a Maven Performance breakaway connector for the firewall. What this is going to allow us to do is be able to disconnect the engine harness from the chassis to service it if we ever needed to be. If you come in here and you look at the old engine harness, it literally just feeds through the firewall and goes directly to the ECM. I did not know that I could do a breakaway connector. Like I said, everything I've learned up until this point is going to be applied on this build. Mistake, success, everything. We're going to figure it all out. But engine wiring will not be as hard this time because we have this, which is all of the data and all of the information from the last engine harness. So we already know what wires go where in this harness. So it's no longer a guessing game of this wire is going to go here, that wire is going to go there. We literally have all the information we need to be able to pin this to this connector and start building out our engine harness. This is going to be very labor intensive, so this is going to be on a time lapse for you guys because this is going to take me some time. Essentially what I'm going to do is remove this old grommet here, cut the wires where they need to be cut. I'll probably cut them like a foot or so, maybe 8 inches past where that grommet is, just to allow a little bit of leeway for the ECM to reach up to the firewall, and then that's going to connect up to this side of the connector. And we do have boots for those, which I believe are back here in the trunk. There's a ton of Haltech stuff just scattered in the trunk right now. I know it's a little bit messy. We've got the fancy boots to be able to make sure everything looks nicely. I've got a ton of Captain tape. I've got a ton of DR25 and other types of heat shrink. Nothing on this engine harness is going to be skimped out or cheaped out. So let's start today off by starting to sort wires, figure out where they're going to go in between these two connectors. Then we'll start cutting up this harness and pinning it for everything that's got to feed through there. So I guess let's get to work, Daddy-o. Messed up a couple times. I'm gonna have to order some spare pins, but it's no big deal. So essentially what I'm doing is, you guys may have seen a piece of blue tape on here. I have to put a new piece on here. That's just telling me where to cut these wires at, so that way I know the length from the harness back. And then forward, we've got the actual engine harness here. So we're gonna have two of these cannon plugs on here that'll go to the engine harness. And essentially what you do is you just cut it, you strip it, and then you pin it in there. These specialty tools do make life way easier because they literally give you a perfect crimp every single time. You stick the pin in that hole with the wire on it, give it a squeeze, it crimps it, and then you're good to pin it up. It also helps to write down what pin location, what the wire is, what the wire stripe is, and then what the function of that wire is. So I'm gonna go through this harness, do as much as I can on this to get them pinned up between the two cannon plugs, so that way we can actually get this half of the engine harness in the engine bay to actually be able to start making it, because we cannot make the engine harness until we have this portion done, because that's gonna determine, like, okay, this is our engine harness side, that is our ECU side. So I'm gonna keep pinning away. It's been about 4 hours now. I stopped filming after a while because it's all just super repetitive stuff. All I'm doing is cutting wires, crimping them, and then pinning them to these guys. So I've got this 35 pin. This is 35 pin. I still have a 29 pin connector to do. The 35 pin is done. This has things like the ignition coils, the injectors, boost control, coolant temperature, oil temperature, ethanol sensor, things like that. That's everything in this harness. The other side's gonna be like crank position, cam position, other little random things that I've got on the harnesses to pin out here and there. But so far, we're doing pretty good. We're doing real good. Drive-by-wire, that stuff's in there. All that fun stuff. So this is a lot, man. There's a lot that goes into this. I still have a lot more to do. I actually might go back to the house because there's some documentation that I need for this, because for things like the coil packs need like an engine ground, and then I believe they also need an ECM ground. Don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure, but the coil packs split up into a lot of different things because they draw a lot of power. We exploded a coil pack last time because we had the wiring wrong on it, on one coil pack. So it's good to know. Honestly, dude, this new harness is gonna be way fucking better. This whole car is gonna be way better. Next day, focus! There we go. So it's the next day. I got all my documentation that I needed, printed that out, and I also found a solution for the home signal and the crank signal to be able to insulate the shielded wire to be able to pin it into the connector. So I went over to the auto parts store and they have this stuff called liquid tape. I just need this to be able to insulate the wire. I can put a little bit of DR25 over that after I get that on there, but that will at least provide a coating around the wire that will keep it from like grounding out or shorting out or anything like that, because that shield in this wire protects the wires from electromagnetic interference from things in the engine bay and inside of the car, like your radio and things like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually let me show you, because I just did a test piece real quick just to see how it would come out. Now it doesn't look the prettiest. Let me put my hand behind this little focus. It doesn't look the prettiest, but it is literally just there to shield the wire. So, you know, I think it'll work. I'm gonna have to coat them and then let them dry for probably 15 minutes. So I think I'm just gonna do that to start with. So let me grab those wires. Let's grab them, dip them into this liquid tape, let them cure, and then we can start pinning those up into our other connector here. Take this and then just dip this all the way in there. Just like that, just to coat the wire. We got continuity, so I'm calling that a W. Now I can do the other ones though and get those knocked out. So I've encountered my first problem. The 35 pin connector is the right one that I needed. I did not need the 29 pin. The 29 pin is wrong, so it sucks because these things are like 150 bucks each, which makes no sense because they're mil spec and military stuff is like super cheap and surplus and whatnot, but it's whatever. So when I get home, I'm gonna have to order another one, but I'm not gonna get a 29 pin. I'll get the 45 pin just to give me a little bit of excess on there. So that really sucks, but you know, I'm not gonna force a connector that's not the right connector to work. I do have this side of the, what is that? The 35 pin pretty much loomed out at this point. So I can't do anything with that quite yet, but next up, since I can't keep going on that, let's start getting all of the old wiring out of this thing. Gonna suck. I am gonna pop the circuit breaker right down here though, just to cut power to the car to make sure that I don't kill anything or fry anything as I'm removing harnesses. The main focus is to get the old engine harness out and start getting all of this old Haltech wiring out, which runs under the dash to the gauge cluster, literally all over the place inside of this car. So let's start removing it. There's a ton of it in here. Dude, all right, so I've gotten everything out from here back. Now I'm gonna try going in up here. I gotta be a little gentle up here because there's some stuff that I don't want to cut. I'm cutting most of it out because the way I ran it is really stupid. I have to take the dash and everything back out of this car again. You know, we're doing stuff. We're doing stuff and we're doing things. So all of these old, I'll keep all these as like spare wire too because I can use these in the new harness. It's good, and it's good wire, so it's good to keep around. These wires. Pull it out of here. This is like fuel pump stuff, it looks like. Where does this go? Is this zip tied to that? Oh, it is. Fuck, dude. Just cut the zip tie. I think I'm at the point where I have to start taking out the dash, which is gonna friggin' suck. I really don't want to. But I have to pull the dash, even though I really don't want to. Alright, I'm gonna take a 5. Then let's take the interior completely apart again. Oh my god, dude. That's a familiar sight. That's not a fun one, but it's familiar, I'll tell you that much. Okay, dash is out. I only cut my hand once, but I needed to get this out to be able to get all the old wiring out and be able to feed all the new wiring back through there. So now that we have the dash out, we can actually get the last of the wiring out because I'm gonna have to pull out the blower fan and a couple other smaller things. The heater core can stay in, but I think it's just the blower fan that needs to come out for me to be able to gain access down here. I know some of you guys might look at this and be like, what in the hell are you doing, Tanner? Trust me, I had this car stripped apart a lot more than this before. So easy enough. We're just gonna get this blower fan out of the way right here, so that way we can pull all of these wires back through the firewall, get out the old fuse box, get out all this old crap, so that way it just gives us a fresh start in here, because that's what I'm just trying to accomplish right now, is get all the old stuff out, so that way we have a nice fresh start to be able to redo all of our wiring in an actual professional motorsports grade, so that way it's not just like randomly looped through random things because I didn't know what the hell I was doing the first time. All right, I'm really hoping I don't have to pull the dash bar out, so let me pull out this heater core and hopefully I can just slide it kind of down and under the dash bar. I really don't want to pull the dash bar out because then the steering column's gonna drop and I don't want to. So heater core, I'm gonna fight with that thing real quick. Come on, Jimbo. I don't want to unplug the ECU. I can avoid it because from last time, it's kind of a shit show, so. Oh, I cut it. Where does this go? It's for the wideband controller. Who's the dickhead that wired all this? Oh, it was me. Yes! Yes! Didn't have to take out the dash bar. Oh man, that sucked getting all that old wiring out, but there it is. I'm gonna be kidnapping some stuff from this wiring, such as like relays, fuses, things like that. Up in here, we have the blower fan out, the dash is out, all of the old wiring is out, which, let me tell you, that sucked. I ran all of that the stupidest way possible because I didn't know any better, but it's all part of the learning experience. So I've got the dash set up right here. Now that I've got all the old stuff out, I do want to start hammering down on some more of the new stuff. So what we're going to be doing here is adding 2 relays into the Haltech fuse box. I did not do this last time, and for some reason I decided to run a whole bunch of standalone relays and fuses back here for some reason. Don't ask me why. The Haltech is totally capable of being able to support 2 more relays and 2 more fuses. I am going to have to do 1 standalone relay for the second thermo fan, which isn't a big deal, but in here we'll do our secondary fuel pump, and then we'll do 1 thermo fan, and then we'll run an independent relay, probably up in the glove box, or maybe we'll just keep it back here in the trunk for the other thermo fan, or I could just wire the thermo fans to kick in together. I'm gonna run through here. I have a diagram right here of how this thing's going to be pinned out. Relays do confuse me a little bit, but I know going off of this that the DPO which is ignition 7 that we're using because you can reassign ignition wires that you're not using. Since this harness is for an 8-cylinder car, you can make it up to 8 cylinders. You can use older or unused, I guess I should say, ignition wires as DPO. So the DPO, which is ignition 7, which is yellow with purple stripe, is going to be our ground trigger for the relay. Then we have a switch 12 volt going in here, constant 12 volt, and then the relay's output. So should be pretty easy. I've got pins here and I've got some extra pins in the trunk to be able to wire all of this in. So let's wire in some relays. So this is taking a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but I am making sure that everything is done 100% perfect this time. So in here, this is the fuse box that Haltech gives you with the Elite 2500 harness. What I've done is just gone through here and pinned out 2 more relays and 2 more fuses for our secondary fuel pump and one of the thermo fans. One of the thermo fans, since I'm running 2, is going to have to be controlled by an external relay, which won't be a problem. I can just mount it somewhere else, or I could probably just split voltage off of this, but I don't want to experience voltage drop on fans because with this engine, cooling is a big thing. So the way that these work, I mean, it's pretty simple. If you look at the diagram of the relay here, pin 30 is your 12 volt, pin 85 is your switched 12 volt source, pin 86 is your ground or your ECU output. That's going to be like your DPO, your AVI, which is like a analog voltage input or digital pulse output from the ECU going to this. So I've got one reassigned for cylinder, I believe it was 7, that we are not using on this because we have a 6-cylinder engine, and that is the trigger for the thermo fan, which is this guy right there. I know there's a lot of wires in there. It's the second one right there, and then this other one with the yellow and purple wire is just a spare AVI that I had, which controls the fuel pump. So those are actually ground signals that trigger the relays to send 12 volts to whatever it is you're trying to send to. So that's when you come up here and you've got relay output, relay output. So you could have 2 87s, which maybe I'll add another 87 on the thermo fan. Oh, did I add another one for the thermo fan? Because then we'd have 2 outputs for the fan. Man, I'm gonna go look at the stock fuse box for this and see if it shares for the fans or if it's singular. Actually, I lied. I want the thermo fans to be separate so that way I can control them at different temperatures, so that way we have a little bit more control over it. So I'm just gonna leave it how it is, put the back plate back on here, and then the fuse box situation is all done with. With our fuse box all tidied up, there's not much else I can do with this harness. I'm gonna go home and order the proper connector that we need. I need to pull the engine to be able to get the plate put up in the engine. I already know where I'm gonna put it, so that should be super easy to do. We've got this half of the harness all done for at least getting it into the cannon plug. It may not have seemed like a lot of progress happened on this, but I promise you, it was a lot of progress. Like 2 full days of work, getting that dash out, getting all the old wiring out, getting that harness split up into the cannon plug, getting the fuse box all done, and more. It's just, there's a lot that goes into this stuff. But anyway, go back to the house. The WRX is waiting for me. Good morning, party people. I got the updated tune for that, so let's turn that on. I need to get a warm idle log of it. I need to go get a cruising log later, and then a partial 25% acceleration from like 1st through 4th. So let's get our idle log real quick, and then we'll close this thing out. How you doing, Subaru? Let this guy warm up to operating temp and get our log. Just got the idle log done for the 04 STI. It was literally just letting it idle for like 20 minutes, taking like a 5-minute log. I need to go out and get a cruising log, and then like I said, an acceleration log. I'm gonna bleed the brakes on this thing again today to try to get out any more air, since I was able to get the ABS to activate. Hopefully that was enough to be able to push some of the air out of the lines and to like the caliper, so that way I can pull that air out. So do that, and then maybe head over to the shop this afternoon. If not, I'm gonna go back over to the shop tomorrow. I got the new 47 pin connector ordered for the harness, so that way, and I 2-day shipped it, so that way that should be here in a couple of days. I've got a ton of stuff coming for this. Full spare built motor coming, so we can assemble a full motor for it. CP pistons, manley rods, new crank, king bearings, Kilford cams, everything for this white STI, just in preparation because I know Josh and I like to get a little bit spicy. So it's an RA block. We'll see what it'll do. I mean, we've had good luck with RA blocks in the past, so we'll push this one a little bit. We'll see what we can get out of this RA block, and then once it lets go, we'll have a built motor on standby. New wheels for the WRX show up on Tuesday. The Exity triple disc shows up on Tuesday. A whole bunch of good stuff. So cover that stuff once it comes in. But anyways, that's all I got for you guys on this one. If you're excited for blue to be coming back, go ahead, hit that like button. Turn it black, blue, green, yellow, purple, silver, cyan, whatever color it turns for you. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you want to be able to put it in one of these corners, no idea which one quite yet. But with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. So peace out, homies. Oh,